obviously like most people watching are probably going to be in the same situation as me. Is they struggle for like motivation for the gym. I've been in and out of the gym for years, going for like 2 months, being obsessed with it to completely ditching it. But you seem to have held a pretty solid. You've been able to do it pretty solidly throughout the years. I was just going to ask, like, do you find that motivation comes naturally, or do you do little techniques that help you out? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
So I love the feeling of being healthy. I will always exercise. I will always eat well. It's been the last 3 or 4 years. There's not been a stage where I haven't been in shape and physically healthy. It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel happy. I can't really imagine how I'd feel if I didn't feel physically well. My mental health and my physical health are absolutely completely combined. If my physical health goes down, I feel my mental health suffering. So for me, it's more of an awareness that it does have an impact on my mental health. And for me, mental health is key. It's the thing I focus on most in my life. And that's, I think, what drives me to be so consistent with the gym. I started properly going when I had that time in Spain. So I went to live in Spain to do a placement for 4 or 5 months. And I had some time finally to myself where in the evening there was no friends asking me to go and drink alcohol. It was just a time for me to focus on my own health. So I was in control of what I was eating and whether I went to the gym or not. So that's when I really got into it. And anyone who's close to me knows that over the last 2 years, I have eaten like an athlete and trained like an animal for 2 years. Really, it's been a huge part of my life. So my motivation comes from the mental aspect, I'd say. So when you say you've gone in and out of the gym, what has it been? Do you think that the driving force for you to go in the first place, and then for it to drop away?
I think the driving force really is occasionally just looking at myself in the mirror and being like, Jesus, mate, like you need to do something about that. And then I learned a lot about the gym just off watching videos and reading about it. And I find doing stuff like that really motivates me. I get obsessed with becoming bigger for about 2 months, and I don't go for a few days, sack it off a couple times, and then by that point I no longer have the motivation to go. However, I found I do other forms of exercise. I honestly just don't think the gym's for me. So with climbing, I find that I get to a size that I'm very, very happy with. But your main focus isn't on growing your body, so that's not all you're focusing on. You're getting motivation from improving in so many different aspects, and every time you go, being able to see yourself improving. You look at a route, you can't do it for a couple of days, and then you manage to master it, and it's that like constant improving that really keeps me motivated to do that. And then in turn with that, I end up training specifically for climbing and getting bigger. So it's a win-win for me. But the gym has never caught me for more than 3 or 4 months.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. You need to find the way of working out, the way of exercising that fits with you, that you enjoy. Consistency. People who go through phases of going to the gym and training really hard and then dropping off and don't have that consistency, that motivation to keep going, and then who try and get back into the gym without making any changes to the way they work out, what they're doing. How do you expect for it to work the second time if you make no changes? If something's not working for you, if weightlifting doesn't do anything for you, which I completely understand why it wouldn't, and it ceased to do things for me, as I'll talk about in a sec, there's a myriad of ways to work out which don't involve going into the gym, which I actually think is an extremely toxic place. So when I was going to the gym, I was lifting weights, 6 days a week, eating vast amounts of food purely to get bigger. That can't be healthy. Undoing egoic patterns like that have been at the forefront of my mind, of my life for the last year and a half. And going to the gym and doing that was one aspect which I didn't seem to be able to drop. I was so if I didn't go to the gym a day, I'd feel anxious.
So you found that constantly going to the gym and working on your body and trying to constantly improve your appearance, did that accelerate your ego or drop it down? Did you end up feeling, I'm not big enough and I need to get in the gym, or did you end up feeling like, oh, I'm massive, like?
So it's both. The two primary states an ego can take. We're going to talk about the ego a little bit in more detail in a future podcast. But the two primary states an ego can take is inferiority and superiority. And it's weird how they work together. So when you're in the gym, you're lifting weights and part of you feels inferior and that you're not big enough and you need to constantly grow. And the other part of you is comparing yourself to others and thinking how you're superior to them to give yourself that ego boost to keep you working out. And it's a really unhealthy mental pattern that I thought I could control whilst going. But about 4 months ago, it was impeding me from reaching the level of peace in my life that I wanted to obtain. It was the one thing.
Was that because your ego was too big or too small?
Too big. It was too much focus on the way I look and the superficial aspects of life. Too much of that, and I was very aware of it. I was not consumed by it, but I was aware that I was very dependent on the gym to feel good in myself. And if I couldn't go to the gym for, let's say, a week, I would really feel it. I'd feel guilty. So what I decided to do was to get out of there, to get out of a room with mirrors and with so many different people to compare yourself with and to purely be there to grow. So I signed up for a jiu-jitsu class, which is all about respect and improvement, as you say. With your climbing, you're not going there to get big. You might get big as a side effect, but you're there. Yeah, it's part of the process, but you're there to improve and to get better, and because you just love doing it.
Yeah, it is that going to the gym for bodybuilding. It's constant comparisons. It's comparisons in the gym to people who are bigger. I find myself looking at people going, "Oh, I reckon I'm bigger than him," or just like looking at other people like I'll never get to your size. So it is that constant comparison. But I mean, I guess you get that in jiu-jitsu as well. I think it's just a healthier comparison because it's more based on skill rather than body image.
Exactly, and if you're doing these forms of exercise regularly, you're going to look good. You're going to be healthy and fit. But you're not going there primarily to look good, and that's what I decided 4 months ago. I'm going to stop weightlifting. I'm going to come out of a gym, and I'm going to put myself into a new form of exercise, which allows me to not look at myself.
That's calisthenics, is it?
Yeah. So I signed up for the jiu-jitsu class, and then obviously this coronavirus whole period has happened, so the club shut down, of course. So then there was no gym, and I couldn't do jiu-jitsu, so I got into doing calisthenics, which is body weight training. So the really advanced bodyweight training skills are ones such as handstand push-ups and muscle ups and those sort of things. But before that, the planche, all this sort of stuff, like gymnastics, really. But before that, there's a whole load of stages which I'm progressing up to now, and it's a long way to be able to do these crazy moves, isn't it? It does take time. And do you think that along with calisthenics, in order to be really, really good at it and be able to hold these crazy moves like planches, do you feel like you have to do weight training as well? I don't.
I think I would have thought like surely it's going to take so long just to get to that point, just with body weight exercise, just with high reps. Like I feel like sometimes you do need to overload and shock your system in order to actually to get stronger and produce muscle.
So if you want to grow, you want to get as big as you can. I think a mixture of weightlifting and calisthenics is the best way to go. But if you're talking about body weight strength, so when I was at my biggest, when I was at my strongest in terms of weightlifting, I could do probably 5 pull-ups. Now, I can bang out 20 pull-ups, and I haven't lifted a weight in the last.
Pull-ups excel really quickly, don't they? Like when you first start doing pull-ups, it's really hard, and you can only bash out like 3 to 5. But within a week, you are pulling out like 20. maybe that's my lightness though that helps with that. But
Yeah, I have to say it took me a while to build up my pull-ups because I'm pretty heavy. You know, when I started doing the calisthenics, I was sort of 93 to 90 kilos, which is obviously a lot.
You do look like you've like slimmed out a bit, but in a good way. Like you're looking pretty shredded at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'll put a picture up of when I was weightlifting when I was at my biggest weightlifting. And
do you want to do do you want to do a picture from like year 12 or 13 as well? Because you were big then. But
I've
like
got
shot up at uni or like shot out at uni.
Yeah, I've got a photo from me first year uni, which I can put up, and then I'll put one just from before I started the calisthenics and everything for when I was at my biggest, and then I'll put a picture now because I think now I've been training in a much healthier way. I've been training purely body weight, and I also became a pescatarian because it felt right. It was aligned with my inner purpose. It didn't feel right for me to be eating these massive quantities of meat that I used to be doing. It felt wrong for me. So since dropping meat, so not eating nearly as much protein, since stopping weightlifting, I think my body shape is better, and not only that, but my mental is in so much of a better place. So I would just say, if you are in the gym, be careful. Be aware of these egoic mental patterns, of these feelings of inferiority or superiority that you might be feeling in the gym, and just try and not get sucked into them. The gym is an addictive thing, and I've certainly been addicted to the gym. I'm not ashamed to say that. And it's a very liberating feeling not being addicted to the gym and doing it purely for health benefits, and the aesthetics come with it. They honestly do.